Hello, welcome to ESPN FC Live at the Euros, day two from Germany. That's where I am. Ali Moreno is on ESPN FC duty in the studio. He'll be heading there later. And LME, where? Somewhere in Connecticut, I think. So at least you two have got stable Wi-Fi because this hotel room Wi-Fi stuff, I'm not sure about it. Let's start with the game that's just finished. Spain 3, Croatia 0. Ali, I want to start with you. Before we even get to the game, what were your thoughts on the team selection? Cucurella was preferred to Grimaldo at left back, and the youngest ever starter at a European Championship, Lamine Yamal. What do you make of that, Ali?
Lamine Yamal was probably the best player on the field. So, and I just, for anybody who hasn't seen Lamine Yamal play or didn't see Lamine Yamal play this season for Barcelona, you wouldn't miss the fact that he was indeed the best player, certainly offensively, for Barcelona this season. And what was a very disappointing season for the club, it was a very good season for him. And that's why he's on the field for Spain. It's not because it's a cute story. It's not because Luis de la Fuente wants a storyline for us to talk about. It's because Lamine Yamal has earned his right to play in this national team because he gives this team a different dimension in the attack. And in fact, when you have Lamine Yamal on the right and Nico Williams on the left, now you have speed on both sides, which is not something that Spain has had traditionally. It's a team that usually bases their success on their quality of their possession, but now you can have possession with a purpose going forward, stretching the field. And when you stretch the field, then that creates space underneath for some of their skilled players. So now Pedri can get his head up and he can find a pass. And now Fabian can add himself into the attack. Rodri can set the tempo of the game. They have options in the attack on the outside, certainly with speed, that give this team a different look. Lamine Yamal was outstanding today. As for Marc Cucurella, I'd rather not focus on him because guess what? He wasn't needed one way or another. And when he was needed, he made a goal line clearance. So if you want to criticize that, Mark, go ahead. I'll focus on the big performance by Spain, convincing performance, Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Nico Williams, Morata, Fabian Ruiz, Rodri. A thorough performance from Spain. The only low light, if indeed we're going to get critical, is Unai Simon. He, with his mistake, could have made this into a game that was never really a game. And I'm not focusing on this game in particular against Croatia. I'm just saying in general, when you look at where the weak points for Spain could be in this tournament, I would say that Unai Simon is a big question mark. And it's not something that I'm just saying because of the mistake today. It's because he always has some sort of mind-numbing mistake, mind-boggling mistake in him. He's got to cut that out if Spain are serious about winning this tournament.
Okay, we've got a golden boot behind you. We've got medals. We've got trophies. We've got trinkets. We've also got a ball, a soccer ball behind you, Ali. And LME, Croatia didn't see any of a ball in the first 15 minutes. Spain didn't let them get it.
Yeah, no, they didn't. It was pretty much what Ale said, which is, we're talking about a Spain team that's transitioning itself under Luis de la Fuente into a more direct, more vertical team, the possession-centric, the culture of trying to control the game from keeping the ball is still there. But now, because you have Nico Williams, because you have the wonderful Lamine Yamal, you're now stretching the game and becoming more direct and actually easing off the pressure of Alvaro Morata, which is exactly what happened in the goal. Obviously, Fabian Ruiz with that wonderful through ball, Croatia gave them an ocean to go through. But I think Morata now feels a little bit calmer in front of goal because he knows there are options. And of course, Lamine Yamal with that amazing cross. And as Alice said, we have seen it over and over with Barcelona this past season. And, it was a wonderful representation of what Luis de la Fuente can do. And actually, it's not new. It's been a project that's been working for a while now. He obviously has worked with many of the players in the under-21 section, in the under-19s as well. So he knows that he needs to revolutionize itself. By the way, about Cucurella, I actually think that one of the reasons, I know that it's a fact, De La Fuente likes to start him over Grimaldo, specifically because of some of the things that you saw today. He's gritty, he's kind of no nonsense, and yes, it's not always pretty to see, specifically in keeping the ball, but he gives you that grit, that determination that you always see from Carvajal on the other side. So that's one particular focus from the Spanish side. Listen, I went on SportsCenter yesterday, and I'm very, very high on Spain, specifically for this type of reason, because now they're not just about the plan A. They're also about the plan B. I think things are going to get difficult, of course, naturally. And by the way, Croatia did have 16 attempts, 5 on goal, which were the same as Spain as well. So there is room for improvement. specifically the moment Spain loses the ball. But make no mistake about it, this Spanish side is no longer just your beautiful piece of art on the wall that you can keep the ball and not have a conclusion, an after effect. Now you have it. So as long as they keep doing that, as long as they continue to be aggressive and be more direct and understand that the game's not always going to be pretty, then it's going to be good news for Spain. A good win, fantastic from Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal is unbelievable. 16 years old, and it doesn't even faze him. He doesn't even play like a 16-year-old. It's amazing to watch. Congratulations to him, and of course Spain for winning 3-0 against Croatia.
16 attempts, you said, for Croatia, which is 16 more than Scotland. But don't want to go there.
We don't have to go there, my friend. It's
okay.
Do not
want to go there. Oh, because I want to talk about Spain. I thought I was really impressed by them, Ali. In the 29th minute, Fabian Ruiz with a delicious through ball, and he times his run really well. The defenders played him on, Alvaro Morata. The one thing that a lot of us, certainly you guys on ESPN FC, have spoken about is how many chances he needs before the ball ends up in the back of the net. One chance, one goal. He needed that, didn't he? That was the perfect start, Ali.
And that criticism of Alvaro Morata is a fair criticism.
It is, yeah.
It's what we have seen from him while he has scored a bunch of goals for Spain and has scored a bunch of goals in the Euros for Spain. And you kind of get the sense of, but there was more there. There was more on the table for Alvaro Morata. And so, yeah, when you think about the prospects of Spain in this tournament, we get excited about Lamine Yamal. We get excited about the idea of speed on the opposite side with Nico Williams. But you also have to be realistic and really evaluate what's in front of Spain. And if indeed they have these big goals as to what they're going to do in the tournament, Alvaro Morata has to be scoring goals consistently. And today, what I like about his performance, not only the goal that he took it so very well, is the willingness to consistently have a threat of running in behind. That you're getting that on Yamal on one side, you're getting Nico Williams on the other, but that you can actually run in behind through the middle, which you don't always see with Spain, and you don't always see with Alvaro Morata. It's a guy that should use that more often in his game, but so many times he comes to the ball instead of actually spinning and running in behind. Now, just the ability for Spain to even look for the passing behind, that in itself is a development. Because if you go back to the World Cup and you go back to the game against Morocco, it was pass to A, to B, to C, to D, and back to A, to B, to C, to D, and never in that direction, never over there, never towards you, Mark, never towards LME. It was always sideways and back and sideways and back. It's like an umbrella when they get to the final third. In this case, Fabian Ruiz actually takes a touch forward, and his first look is forward, in behind. Let's threaten. Now, to be fair to Spain, to be fair to Fabian Ruiz, to be fair to Alvaro Morata, there was plenty of space to play that ball. And then maybe we direct the conversation towards Croatia and what the big question, where are the center backs? Well, nowhere to be found. But the truth of the matter is that at least Spain is looking for it. They're threatening with it. And when you threaten with that, then the effect of that, the byproduct of that is that now you're going to have space because it pushes the defense back. It pushes that back line further back to where now you can get your tricky guys underneath and they can get involved, and now they're going to have more space to play. So even if you don't complete the pass, the fact that there is a threat to running behind, that allows you to create space underneath. Alvaro Morata gives you that, but more importantly, again, if Spain is going to win this thing, if Spain is going to go on a deep run, if indeed they're going to achieve the things that they think they can achieve, he has to be in the middle of scoring goals inside the 18-yard box.
Elami, on that point from Ali, the third goal just before halftime, it's a delightful ball in from Lamine Yamal, and goal machine Dani Carvajal follows up his Champions League goal with another one here. Was this a case of you thinking that this is really good from Spain or this is really poor from Croatia, or a bit of both today on the whole?
I think it was a bit of both, because I think Croatia expected a few things. One, because they saw Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal starting in this game, they thought that Spain are naturally going to stretch this game. Obviously, Lamine Yamal likes to really come from outside in. He also likes to penetrate inside, as well as Nico Williams as well. So what happens is when you stretch this game, Croatia, specifically the likes of Gavardio, they're paying so much attention to those angles, that the problem is now that you're leaving yourself open in other situations. Hence the goal, as Ale was saying. Now that you have this through ball attack and Alvaro Morata feels confident because he has runners next to him, then that game now sort of multi-diversifies itself. It becomes more of a 4D, 3D angle. Like Lamine Yamal, here's the thing about him. If you watch this game back, he was very, and this is something that we have seen in the course of the season, he's a very patient player. Obviously, he got caught offside a couple of times, but I'm talking about in terms of what he's going to do the moment he receives the ball. So that cross that he does to Dani Carvajal is due to a buildup of patience. He's so quick. He's excellent on turning just inside out when he has the ball, but he's also very smart about knowing when to cross it. And it was a wonderful ball. And as you mentioned, Dani Carvajal can come in from anywhere. So I think it was a combination of both. Also, let's talk about Croatia for a second, right? The largest defeat in a Euro game, matching their 3-0 loss, since 1996. But when you look specifically at that midfield, back in the day, you can rely a lot on Luka Modric, one of the greatest players the game has ever seen. Right? And I'm not taking anything away from him. And he knows this himself. He's not the same player he was 5 years ago. He's not the same player he was 3 years ago. But he can still obviously deliver. He is such a wonderful playmaker. But when you play for Croatia, Croatia rely on him a lot when the chips are down. And today what happened was the chips were down a lot. Spain were controlling so much that you need answers from anywhere else. I thought Kovacic had a poor game. Brozovic as well, allowing Spain to do whatever they wanted. And when Luka Modric is not fully taking the lead control, at least in certain situations, then that's what happens. And so what you're seeing right now is a revamped Spain with a plan A, a plan B. Just like Ali said, they're not going side to side anymore. They can go vertical. They can really push that line. And Croatia, I think, got one caught off guard of that. But at the same time, because they themselves like to keep the ball, it just wasn't happening. And you cannot rely on Luka Modric for 90 minutes anymore. You have to do something a little bit more, and it didn't happen. So it's a combination of both to me as well. By the way, Alvaro Morata, 31 years old, right? You can tell me he's 20, and I'll believe him. That man never ages. He looks beautiful, doesn't he?
Fantastic. Speaking of ages, Croatia under 30-somethings, Ali. Is this a tournament too far for that, or is it far too early to write them off?
Well, I'm concerned. If I'm a Croatia fan, I'm concerned because I think what we saw today was a team that at times looked old and looked like they couldn't quite get around the field. And it's surprising to see, not that Modric is starting, because he quite frankly, as long as he plays, he starts for the national team. But the legs, if indeed you're going to play Luka Modric, then you need a different type of legs through that midfield. Somebody or a player that is capable of covering the spaces. And Brozovic is a guy that right now, currently, if you speed up the game, he can't keep up. And Kovacic is not a guy that is really going to naturally defend and really get stuck in a tackle. And so if you're getting outplayed by the numbers of Spain and you're getting outrun by the change of pace that we've already mentioned from Spain, this newly found change of pace, then you're going to need legs to get around. And I just don't see that Croatia has that. And beyond that, I think what's even more concerning, because the players are who they are, and whatever age they are at this point, look, that's what's available. So let's make the best of it. But in order to make the best of it, you at least have to have a threat going forward. And while they may have had the attempts that LME was referring to, honestly, they got dangerous once, couple of times in the second half, and that's about it. In terms of the totality of their attack, it's a lot of maybe, kind of, sort of have chances, and who's going to finish that? Ante Budimir? Is he the answer? Well, I don't think so. But you look around and go, well, whatever is left over of Kramaric, is he the answer? I don't know at this point in his career. And so I'm looking at a team that has a shortage of talent in the final third, that is depending on that midfield to drive them forward. But that midfield, as we've already established, doesn't quite have the legs. And so that puts a lot of pressure on that back line to be very solid, very clean. They were not solid nor clean today. And so therefore you find yourself with a 3-0 beatdown. And it was every bit of 3-0. Yes, they had a couple of chances in the second half, but that's more out of desperation than the actual development of the game. 3-0 was every bit of 3-0 and could have been more had Livakovic not come up with a couple of saves.
Yeah, Croatia had the ball in the back of the net near the end of the game from a saved penalty and then a follow-up, but there was encroachment and the goal was chalked off. Earlier in the day, just up the road from here in Bonn in Germany, in Cologne, it was Hungary against Switzerland. Ali and LME and myself will take a look back at that one, and we'll be heading to Amsterdam to preview the Dutch game, which takes place tomorrow. Stay there. We'll be back in just after these. Still to come, we'll preview Poland against the Netherlands, the early game on day 3. However, the early game today up in Cologne, Hungary 1, Switzerland 3. Ali Moreno, this was a game of two halves because Hungary in the first half were woeful and Switzerland were excellent. Then the tables turned. So the 3-1, look, Switzerland deserved the victory, but to get a goal late on, to get a 2-goal advantage, was it harsh on Hungary, or do you not feel sorry for them because they didn't show up in the first half?
As I tell my wife quite often,
where's this going?
Empathy.
Don't get in trouble now.
Empathy is not one of my strongest assets.
No,
it's not one of the things that I do naturally.
No.
So to answer your question, no, I don't feel sorry for Hungary because they were poor in the first half. Now, give credit to Switzerland and what they did and the amount of energy that they spent in that first half with their high pressure. We're getting numbers around the ball. We're forcing turnovers and then doing something once they force those turnovers and getting forward and pressuring Hungary and creating opportunities and creating chances. It felt like there was only one team on the field in that first half. What I will say about Switzerland is that when the second half came, and this was surprising to see, people cramping all over the place, struggling physically, struggling to last through an hour of the game. I would understand if this were happening in the quarterfinals, semifinals, after you've been playing for a long time and you get all these minutes behind you and you're logging all these minutes and all of a sudden you're struggling. But when in the 60th minute people are cramping up, I'm kind of going, where have the legs gone for Switzerland? And because the legs were gone, that's when Hungary, again, a little bit of desperation, but also added to the fact that now Switzerland were not getting around the field nearly as easily. We're not getting numbers around the ball. They started to protect the lead rather than to play the way that they were playing in the first half. Then Hungary kind of grew into the game and eventually made this closer than it needed to be for Switzerland. Then another mistake from Hungary for that third goal, and game, set, match. See you guys later. Turn off the lights, warm up the bus. It's time to go home. The truth of the matter is I think Switzerland is far better, or was far better than Hungary. But those first, I would say, 25, 30 minutes in the second half, where Switzerland were noticeably tired and Hungary push and push and push forward, maybe they would have gotten something out of the game. Overall, on the balance, I think Switzerland's a better team.
This is a good game to watch. LME, did we get more from Switzerland than maybe you thought we would get, given that in their the last four qualifiers, they didn't win any of them and they didn't come into this in form?
Yeah, and I actually think Hungary, who only allowed 7 goals in 8 matches in qualifiers, really looked nervous. Actually, they specifically in that first 45. So I think we didn't see the identity of both teams to what we're used to seeing. I actually think Switzerland will learn from this game even more because they are a smarter team and they are the better team and they have a very good spine, right, with Sommer and Akanji, Shaka, of course. And they have a squad, I think, that is going to learn as it goes along. Now, the important thing here is to get that victory, because in the group stages, it's about trying to identify who you want to be in the group stages before you meet arguably way tougher opposition in the knockout stages. So I think we didn't see the Hungary that I expected at the beginning, because I think they were nervous coming into this one. Defensively, they made a lot of mistakes. And Switzerland, obviously, we're running out of gas, but I think they're smart enough and they should be experienced enough to understand that you're going to have to be very adequate when it comes to how much you want to press, whether you want to switch to that mid block, whether you really want to relieve some of your players, specifically offensively speaking, because things are going to get tougher, of course. So, yeah, so I think it was a very entertaining game, but also by default, because we didn't exactly see the identity of the faces of both these sides as we move ahead. But Switzerland, I think, in my opinion, are the team that are going to come out of this one. Well, we'll see what happens with Italy, but Switzerland really should be good enough in Euros to try and contest and do something to try and claim that second spot in this group, because Spain's taking it, obviously.
Well, it's Germany and Scotland.
I'm sorry, Germany. Sorry, Germany's taking this one. But Switzerland, I think, are good enough to take the second spot. That's what I meant.
I was going to say, look, Ali, empathy is not your strong point, but putting the ball in the back of the net from close range and honesty is, be honest with me, right? Scotland, Switzerland, Wednesday. Do we have a chance?
I feel like you're leading the witness here. I would say that Scotland needs to show an element of toughness and an element of fight that wasn't quite there against Germany. If they find that personality within them and they challenge physically Switzerland, I think you have an opportunity, because when Switzerland was challenged physically today by Hungary, they were struggling. When it came to that sort of 50-50 duels, when it came to that second half, when things were getting a little tougher and you're trying to grind, Switzerland, I don't know, that was so ready for the grind. And so, yeah, I think Scotland does have an opportunity, but if indeed they're going to have an opportunity, they're going to have to address the movement with and without the ball of Ndoye, because he really ran the attack for Switzerland and showed a dimension of the attack similar to what we saw from Spain that we don't always associate with Switzerland. A guy running with the ball at speed, running at defenders at speed, running in behind and stretching backlines. It's not usually what we see from Switzerland, and having that dimension, having that different type of option in the attack for Switzerland allows then a guy like Granit Xhaka to be able to spray balls around. But Ndoye, I thought, was outstanding today. And if indeed Scotland have an opportunity to beat in Switzerland, they have to make sure that they address his movement, because he appeared on the right, he appeared on the left, he appeared underneath. He seems to have freedom to go wherever he wants to. And when he does find the ball in the final third, seems to be always be dangerous, at least in today's game against Hungary.
It's going to have to be the complete opposite, Ali. And by the way, MD was so struck by your words that he froze in that moment, because he really doesn't know what's going to happen with Scotland. But just to echo one thing that you said, Scotland are going to have to play the complete opposite game to what they did against Germany. I think everybody knows that. Steve Clark knows that. But like you said, they can't just sit anymore. And Switzerland are the kind of team that if you have possession, if you keep the ball, if you do what you want to do, and like you said, use those pacey runners, then it's all over for Scotland. They're just going to have to do the Mike Tyson quote, and everybody has a plan until you punch them in the face. They're going to have to do that. And if they lose, they lose, but at least they're gambling, because I think that that's going to be the most important thing.
Well, I just look at Scotland, and the personality of the team was not what we saw yesterday against Germany. They were far too passive, far too submissive, far too lenient, and in fact, I would go as far as to say too respectful of Germany, too sort of, hey, we're just going to give you time to play. No. I think at this point, given what the result was and what the performance was against Germany, now you don't have any choice but to get on somebody's face and to go and challenge Switzerland physically and see if from that you can create a game that is more based on how you want to play it rather than the comfort that Switzerland wants on the ball.
Yeah, there's a difference between paying respect to an opponent and just straight bowing to them and just allowing to do them. That's exactly what Scotland did. I believe MD is back. 3, 2, 1. There he is.
I don't know what's worse performance, Scotland last night or the hotel Wi-Fi here in Bonn. See, I'm not allowed to expense it because I'm here as a supporter.
Hey, Mark, I don't know if you heard the answer, but the answer wasn't all that great.
There's a long way around of saying no. We don't really have much of a chance. LME, thank you for holding the fort. And it's no surprise that producer Sam said, look, when you are backstage, don't go too far because this hotel Wi-Fi is not too reliable. So we will now move on. Thank you, LME, from Hungary against Switzerland. We're going to preview the early game tomorrow. It's Poland against the Netherlands. And Ali, no Robert Lewandowski for Poland, no Frankie de Jong for the Dutch, who'll be heading to Amsterdam in just a second. What do you like in this game, and what chance have Poland got without Lewandowski?
Well, not a good one. He is a flag bearer for this team, and he's a guy who's leaned upon and counted upon to not only create the opportunities, but score the opportunities. And he hasn't had the best season with Barcelona. In fact, by his standards, he's had a pretty poor year. It's not so much about the productivity as much as it has been the performances, and the totality of the performances has not been up to his standards. So he was looking, I imagine he would have been looking forward to the Euros as something to kind of, in some ways, make this year better, make this season better. So he must be truly disappointed that he cannot be part of the opening game. As for the Netherlands, I look at a team that, if all comes together, maybe they seem to have enough, at least in name, in the attack to create some mismatches for other teams. They do have a lot of experience in this team. They do have a lot of names and players that have been part of important runs with their club teams, and you kind of feel like, okay, is this a coming out party for Xavi Simons? Is this the sort of stage that elevates his profile to a world-class superstar? Because that's usually what happens in this tournament. There's usually a player that goes from being, hey, this is a really good player, this is a productive player, had a good year for Leipzig. This is the sort of stage in which you elevate that to a superstar. Hasn't quite been the case for him and the Netherlands in terms of his individual performances, but there is potential for that. So if you're the Netherlands, you're looking at this and going, we got something, we're cooking. And leading up to the tournament, they've been playing well, they've been scoring goals. My concern is actually, are they going to continue to score goals? And you take Xavi Simons out of the picture, and you're leaning on Memphis Depay, you're leaning on Wout Weghorst. Is Wout Weghorst really? Is he really the answer? Well, apparently he's going to have to be at some point or another for this team. But there is enough for the Netherlands to be, at the very least, optimistic, not only to beat Poland, but actually make a run in this tournament.
Okay, let's get a Dutch take on this one. Delighted to welcome in Fresha Cousinho Arias. It's a big summer for you. You've got Chile in the Copa America. You've got the Dutch in the Euros as well. So double the chance of success. So Ali's wondering, he's asked a few questions about Xavi Simons and various other players. Are you really optimistic, cautiously optimistic, or we'll see how it goes?
Well, actually, there weren't any expectations on forehand for this tournament, since we weren't doing that well actually at the World Cup. And I mean, we like good football, we like pretty football. So not only winning is enough in the Netherlands, and yeah, it hasn't been that attractive. But the last two practical games against Iceland and against Canada, both won 4-0, were quite good actually. And then after that, you saw that the narrative in the country, it changed, and everybody's quite optimistic and has a certain feeling. So that's nice. But if it comes to Xavi Simons, there are several players who had a great season so far. Xavi Simons is one of them. He made the step to Leipzig. the season before, he played for PSV in Eindhoven, which is a Dutch club. And then everybody sees him every week, and we know his way of playing, we know his talent, and he's one of the biggest talents. If it comes, to our future players, he will be the big man. Everybody knows that. But if it comes to the national team, he hasn't been outstanding as he could be for Leipzig this season. But to be honest, I don't understand why the coach Ronald Koeman is not using him in the same way Leipzig is doing. You see him over there from the left side of the pitch, and in the national team he's only playing at the right side. So it's not really his strength in his way of playing. He likes the ball in his feet. He likes to play within different positions. So I'm really looking forward to him to, I don't know, get rid of those critical people and just make fun, because that's the thing he does and he's used to doing. So scored his first goal last week. So, well, that's a start.
It's a nasty group, isn't it? Because Austria and France are decent, Ali. So I suppose from a Polish point of view, it's going to be hard for them without Lewandowski. But from a Dutch point of view, they can't afford to drop anything, knowing that they've got Austria and France still to come.
Yeah, and let me just say that while Fresha said that she was optimistic, it sounded more like she's cautiously optimistic.
I agree.
Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like maybe. Look, I'm going to give a reason for Fresha to believe that indeed the Dutch are going to do well and going to get out of this group. I focus on Xavi Simons, and that's just one name. But here's another player that I think can make a difference for the Netherlands. And in fact, I will say two players. If you say Jeremy Frimpong can have the sort of success that he had with Bayer Leverkusen down that right-hand side, and then that allows Xavi Simons to float a little bit more central, or perhaps even lean towards the left-hand side, the combo package of Dumfries down the right with Jeremy Frimpong, I think creates mismatches in terms of speed for other teams. The power and the speed of Dumfries and the ability and skill set and the speed overall of Jeremy Frimpong can be a nightmare for other teams. So in the case of a team like Poland, that is going to be probably sitting behind the ball really deep, you need those players that are able to be defenders in 1v1 situations in very tight areas. Frimpong can do that for the Netherlands. And so if he has a big tournament and that combo package down the right-hand side is productive, then that I think that gives freedom to Xavi Simons to start floating in other areas of the field. And perhaps if all of those things happen, then the Netherlands are gonna make a run that Fresha is gonna be proud of. If those things don't happen, then we may be having a different conversation.
Yeah, actually, he was combined. Dumfries is combined with a different player, because in the two practical games against Iceland and Canada, we did see Frimpong, and he did really well. But he's a couple together with Geertruida, and they did really well together. And we saw the second match against Iceland, we saw Frimpong seen subbed on. And then immediately Geertruida got stepped on also, and they have a good connection. So yeah, definitely we will see him, which is quite funny actually, because at the World Cup, Denzel Dumfries was the big man, but he didn't play ever since, like not all the matches for Inter anymore. And ever since he's been a key player for the national team. But since Frimpong has had a crazy season, of course, with Leverkusen, and he has been a huge player for Leverkusen. And I don't know, he's also a nice fellow, you know. If you hear him talking, he's not able to talk Dutch yet. He does understand a bit, but I don't know. We also like players who are like likable. We like those players, and he has a lot of energy, and he's joyful. Everybody is also doubting if Denzel Dumfries is still the one who has to start. A lot of people want to see Frimpong also. Yeah, so I think my expectations are that I think maybe 60 minutes or something, Denzel Dumfries will start together with Xavi Simons on the right side. And then after 60 or 65 minutes, we probably see Frimpong, but then together with Geertruida.
You've also got the option of perhaps playing Frimpong on the left-hand side. That's been mentioned as well as in front of Dumfries. So plenty of options for the Dutch. Fresha, I want to give you the last word. Cody Gakpo was brilliant at the World Cup for the Dutch, and hopefully he can have another good tournament. What Memphis Depay do you think will show up?
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
he's been injured so many times, and he just needs 5 more goals, and then he's top scorer all time of the national team, which Van Persie is now. And it's crazy if you think about it. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about Robin van Persie, he's like the big guy, the big fellow. Everybody's really proud of him. And Memphis is always a bit of a he's a guy who likes to stand out offside the pitch, but also onside the pitch. And well, I didn't really have the feeling that the tournament was coming. It wasn't living. Not everybody was talking about it here in the country. But after after those games last week, everybody was talking about Memphis Depay, and not only his way of playing, but they were talking about his sweatband, his headband he was wearing, and everybody was complaining that he was doing that to stand out and that he's not a team player. But in the end, he played 2 really big games, and he was really standing out. And yeah, really one of the leaders. And he's leaving Atletico, so I think he will be one of the key players, and I think he will have a great summer, and then see where it goes if it comes to club football.
We're going to end with predictions, and Fresha, you're not allowed one because you are in the camp, so you have to go for the Dutch. It's the rule, it's the law. So Fresha's going to go for the Dutch because you can't come on here and then wax lyrical about the Netherlands and then say you think it's going to be a draw.
I would go for the Netherlands anyway. I would go for the Netherlands anyway.
Of course you would. Now the
Yeah.
voice of reason. Prediction time, Ali.
2-0, the Netherlands.
Okay.
Thorough, convincing performance,
Mhm.
and a performance that is going to give Fresia and her friends a reason to believe and to go and support their national team. I really do think that the Netherlands will be dominant against Poland. What happens after that, we'll see. But the Netherlands are a good team.
Looking forward to speaking to Ali again and to Elimi and the rest of the gang. And Fresha, thank you for joining us, and looking forward to catching up with you throughout the tournament, keeping us abreast of what is going on with the Dutch. So the day is ongoing. We still have Italy against Albania. I think, Ali, my head's still spinning from last night. Earlier today, we had Switzerland against Hungary, and then the Spanish were pretty good, weren't they, against the Croatian. A 16-year-old at the centre of a wonderful performance. We'll do it all again after the late game today here on ESPN FC Live. Bye for now.